Hi, everyone. Alrighty. Wait for people to get on. How's everyone doing? Hi, McDermott. Good to see you. How are you? Playing, I think, Venezuelan music. I hope it's Venezuelan. Hi there. Hola. Hi, Barb. Good to see you. Let's see. I'm trying to log into my account real quick. There's Marian. Okay, and then Marian, you should see a join request. And you just click that. There we go. And we're going to go live with Marian. And it should come up. There you are, Marian.
Yeah, there we go.
Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Bien, gracias. I was fiddling with my phone, and I have it on a tripod, and it was a little bit shaky. So
Yes.
It's not me dancing, guys. Not yet.
Yes, me too. I found a playlist on Spotify called Venezuelan Party.
Nice.
So I was like, I was going to ask you for some artists, but then I was like, well, let me see what I can find. And
Well, there's beautiful music out there.
oh my goodness. This is La Chicas del Can.
Yes, those are a merengue group of women.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they tended to, sing rather suggestive subject matter
Yes.
about it, and it was kind of funny. They were like scantily dressed, and with suggestive movements, and anyway.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Of course. That's too funny.
I've danced to that music plenty of times.
Plenty of time. Oh my goodness. Are you surviving your week?
I am. I'm so happy it's Thursday. It's Little Friday.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I know. Lots of grading, lots of things to do.
Yeah, it's been a little busy, but hey, beats the alternative.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
Yeah.
And, here we are. Okay, let me make sure. There we go. So I like to have the feed on so I can see everything. There we go. Okay. Alrighty, well, I'm so thankful you're here, and I'm sure we'll have more people jumping on. And, oh, look, there's Giselle. Good to see you. So let's see. So is Max working from home too, your husband Max?
Yeah, he is. He's just inside working away.
Oh, okay. I love he had a video of him. What was he, roller skating? No, not roller skating, skateboarding.
Skateboarding, yes.
I meant to private message him and say I was so impressed at his skateboarding because I'm terrible at skateboarding. I cannot keep my balance.
Oh, girl. Same here. He's like a kid. He's like a 12-year-old boy.
He looked like a teenager.
And he hasn't done it in ages, and then he just jumps right in. It's crazy. It's crazy. So for those of you who don't know, Michelle and I are not only colleagues, we teach at the same school at Richland, but 2 years ago we traveled together for a month. We spent a month together in Vietnam, just going from south to north of Vietnam. It was just a magnificent, amazing trip. And Max had the opportunity to join us for a couple of weeks. So we spent some time together, and she knows Max and my husband. Yeah.
Although I was sick for most of that trip, but you guys just kept me going, and Marian taught me the art of shopping. Truly, because I'm going to shop, but I'm more of a speed shopper, and I just love that you were like, no, we need more time to shop. I was like, I love that.
Yeah, let's hang on.
Some of the people with us were not big shoppers, and they're like, no, we want to go. I'm like, no, but there's things to look at. There's things to buy. Yeah.
Well, it's just such a visually engaging country. There's just the colors, and then it's very sensuous because it really feeds to the senses. Also, it's warm and it's beautiful, and the colors from everything is just gorgeous. It has a beautiful light. It's closer to just slightly north of the equator, and the light is just incredible.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm still looking through my pictures. I'm still processing it was just so much every day. and then when I go back and look at the books or the things that we did buy, this is totally worth it because now we still have those memories, and now that we're stuck at home, and yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking, wow, I could really move here if it wasn't for the fact that I have all my family in Venezuela. But I was like,
oh my gosh, yes.
Especially Saigon. I felt very connected to that city.
Yes, and
I love the chaos.
Yes, and the food and everything. It was just gorgeous.
It was gorgeous.
All right. Well, so I'm so thankful that you and the art club got to join us for our live feed. Part of what we do is just to help our students learn more about our professors. I think they're just as curious as I am to know more about the people that we work with and that they take classes from. And I do know that you do have family in Venezuela, but you also mentioned that you are also part Spaniard, which I did not know. So you want to tell us maybe a little bit about how you grew up, where you were born, what that dynamic was like?
So it's, I was thinking about that after I mentioned that in our last meeting, the art club meeting, because I'm kind of like a double immigrant, daughter of, and then now an immigrant myself.
Yes.
And I grew up very close to, so my father is from the north of Spain. He's from the Basque Country.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So they, along with his parents, he was only 12 years old when they arrived by ship on, not even third class. It was probably like fifth class. They had nothing. Right. What we say in Venezuela, they came in with a hand in the front and a hand in the back, nothing else.
Nothing else.
And they, they just worked their way. And both my grandparents, and they, raised 3 children. My father's the eldest. He's still alive. My aunts too. And we're very close. And I grew up with that side of the family because we moved to a tiny little town on the east coast of Venezuela. It's called Lecherias. It's a coastal town. It used to be kind of like a fisherman village. It was very small. In the past 50 years, it's grown tremendously. Because it's gorgeous, I have to say.
Oh, I bet.
And of course, I grew up there and I'm like, oh, another day at the beach. Whatever. Okay. Yes. It's fine. No, in honesty, I really loved it. My father, he went to school and he became an engineer, a civil engineer. And he was working for a ministry that did kind of infrastructure. So he was one of the resident engineers. He would travel across the country. Mind you, this is a country that just started their industrialization in the 40s and 50s. So when he was, mid-60s, the country was just growing tremendously. Sorry about this. I have my,
it's okay.
I don't know what, okay.
There you
go. My phone. So anyway, he had to, he was working for an aqueduct to, install a new aqueduct in that area where I grew up. And he fell in love with it. I think part of it is because it was a beach town and it has a very large bay. And actually Christopher Columbus navigated right across it. And I'm so sorry, my family keeps texting and I don't know how to silence this. I have a new iPad and then I just got it.
In the settings there's a do not disturb. That's what I have to do because I get the same issue.
Oh, sorry guys. So I'm going to try to do that right now. So anyway, I'm the youngest of 4. My family, my mother's an economist. So we have very little in common.
And then you're an artist. I'm like, wow, what was that like?
I'm the only one in my family who is an artist. And my goodness, my children are just like, hang on one second, sounds. Let me there we go. Okay, I just silenced it. So, and then, this oddball of a person just landed in their midst. And it was a little, it was kind of odd. They were sensible. I think my mother especially was a bit sensible. I remember my first art teacher who was a very famous Venezuelan artist, Gladys Meneses. And I remember her classes fondly. I just had the best time with her. And she would tell my mom, she has talent. You have to foster that. And my mom was like, yeah, right. She's studying, I don't know, to be a doctor.
To be an accountant or something.
Yeah. yeah. So anyway, I have, my siblings are, one is an engineer, the other one's a doctor, the other one is, a journalist, which was a little bit off
Oh.
the path. So anyway, and then an artist. So we slowly all moved to Caracas in order to go to a better university. In my area, there weren't that good of universities. So I ended up going to university first and then college, and then I dropped out.
I remember you mentioning that.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you feel about having to do that, or where were you in that moment when that happened?
Well, I
And
was
then
not
some
in
of
a
our
good place.
students, yeah, some of our students face that, obviously.
Absolutely. And I get it. I get
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you have to have some sort of support. And if you don't have it in your environment, you have to have it internally. And I didn't have it either out or in. So that was kind of hard. And then I went into fashion design. I did well. I it's kind of like creativity, right? It's applicable to any realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in sciences, of course, it's about finding new solutions to problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I did well. Here comes the master's. I mean, the thesis, you have to do a collection, and I never finished it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there was, that feeling of like failure.
Oh, yes.
So I started working right away, and I started working at this beautiful industrial design shop. It was like Alessi. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Alessi. Alessi is a manufacturing company of high-end design objects.
Oh,
So
nice.
they do, I don't know, coffee pots, but then they hire these architects to do these coffee pots, and they're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Or, Philip Stark, it's one of the preeminent architects or designers that have come from that firm. And I mean, others, Michael Grape, Aldo Rossi, Achille Castigliani, you name it. There are many, many artists and designers and architects that have worked with Alessi. So I learned a lot about design in that store. And that's the other thing that I like to share with my students is that nothing is, how do you say, everything counts, if you will. I was kind of in a dead-end job. I mean, I was a salesperson in that. It was a gorgeous place, right? And I was like, oh, I felt like, what am I going to do with my life? But I was learning, I was educating my eye so much by the catalogs, by the wrapping, by the way that these objects were rethought of, everyday common objects like a teacup. I'll give you an example. And I have kind of like this little cup here. This is not a Lessie. It's just a cheap cup from the Guggenheim Museum. But these are little things that they would do. So this designer, whom I don't know, it's probably, it just says Guggenheim on the bottom. It's just my cup of coffee. They design a coffee with the spiral inspired design of the building, right? The Frank Lloyd Wright building. So this kind of things, right, that they would do. So anyway, after that, then I had a job by chance, and I think that also by a little bit of luck, in this incredible art gallery in Caracas. And the gallery represented what is today the most important Venezuelan artist who ever lived. And of course, we're talking about geometric abstraction, one of the inventors of geometric abstraction style, which is kind of the preeminent art movement that emerged from Latin America, but we should actually say from the West. Okay, we tend to kind of classify art movements by, Western, non-Western, etc. But what that means is that we're centering art movements in European backgrounds. But this is a very, very important art movement. So think of the Pollock, like the Venezuelan Jackson Pollock, but instead of drips, he had very hard-edged, very mathematical artworks that actually had movement and created this illusion of depth and space and volume in two dimensions. So I met him. He had his studio in Paris, and then I had another studio in Caracas. He lived 6 months out of the year in one place and then the other. He had his wife in Paris, Helen. She's still alive, I believe. Don't quote me on that one. And his girlfriend in Caracas. Yeah. Typical Venezuelan men.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Not all of them are like that. But anyway, it was a great experience for me. And I knew nothing. And, fake it till you make it, guys, because I did. And in my spare time, I would just study. So then I get married. Max is offered a job here in Dallas. We move here. And then I moved here and I thought, okay, I'm going to study. I think I can do this. I don't know how. By the time I had a child, I would walk down SMU, down the beautiful avenues and just look. It's like, this is impossible. I remember requesting a catalog and seeing the price of tuition, and I almost had a heart attack.
Yes, it's expensive.
I was a stay-at-home mom. We had very limited resources, and a friend of mine, an American friend, brought to my house, and the calendars back then, the schedules for semesters for community colleges were printed like a newspaper print. And she dropped one off, and I went to Brookhaven.
Oh,
and
nice.
Yeah, so they started, they wouldn't allow me to take a painting class because that's what I wanted.
Oh, wow. What year was this?
So this is 2001.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, 2000, not 99, I can't remember.
Oh,
2000, 2001. So they made me, and I was painting at my house. Like I had a little space, but, nothing formally, And at Brookhaven, they wouldn't allow me to take a painting class because I had to take English first.
Oh, of course.
And then I took my English, and then I finally was able to take painting class. And I encountered this professor who just recently retired, Don Taylor. After teaching, 50 years in the district. And Don was really amazing. Today we're good friends. He was just fantastic. And I did exactly what he told me to do. So I tell this story to my students, and in a way I kind of tell them, you need to do the same. You need to do whatever I told you.
Do what I'm telling you to do.
Just do it. So again, I didn't have the means to go to SMU, but Dawn, I was taking classes at night and in the weekends, so Max could come home and watch the girls. But this time I had another child. And one day, Don pulled me aside and he said, hey girl, he would call me girl. He'd say, hey girl, I think you need to, get serious and take your math and take your history, take your English, take your science, and then transfer to SMU. And I was like, yes, Don, and you're going to finish up raising my children. Yeah.
Easy.
So easy. So it took me a long time. But again, I always say this, time is going to pass no matter what. It's relentless, right? So whether you're doing nothing or you're doing something productive, time is going to pass, so you might as well make it count.
Well, and something I noticed, because I took your class in the summer, is something I hadn't seen with other professors as much as I have with you. You are very kind and thoughtful to students that have young children. When they have babies, and then we were doing the Zoom, and you're like, if you have to hold the baby while you paint, then that's what you have to do. Yeah. And we don't do enough of that to uplift women, especially that are stay-at-home moms or single parents. And that was just, to see that, yeah, it is possible. It may take a few more steps to do it. But
exactly.
And I think because you had that experience and you did that, you went through that. I think you have a lot more empathy than I see, especially if some of our other professors have been here longer. And, I've even seen it among other female professors that are like, well, yeah, okay, you have kids, that's not my problem. But with you, I see this understanding of your creativity is still part of you. It still matters. And yes, you have a kid, and yes, you have to work, but you have to make space for yourself. So
right. And also, whenever, for me, I had this impetus, like this force that was, driving me to do these things. And I don't know, I think I would have gone crazy if I hadn't. Yeah. And there's nobody, there's no handbook. Nobody tells you these things. But, it's very important to follow that inner voice. And, it also, because I always felt a little bit selfish for doing this, I should be, watching my kids or cooking another meal or baking more cookies or whatever.
Yes.
there's so much learning that happens when their parent is also struggling and the parent also understands what it means to be a student.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know, my daughters and I really clicked on that, even though at the time they were not the happiest
Mm-hmm.
at some points, because I was, studying all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, I had to, because the only way that I could go to school was through scholarship. I had no way of getting credit or student loans. So, I mean, you just do what you have to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and then why stop at a bachelor's? Why not go to a master's and also teach?
And so you did your master's at SMU then?
Yeah, I did my master's at SMU as well. Yes.
Okay. And
2 years after my undergrad.
Okay. And how is their art program? What was your experience there?
Well, it was very rigorous, also small.
Mm-hmm.
So and I'm talking especially, well, both. They're pretty small, both programs, undergrad and then the graduate school. When I was there, incredible resources. I mean, they were very helpful. We also traveled a lot. We did, and I did it 3 times. I was very lucky to do it 3 times. Travel to New York City and then spend 2 weeks there just looking at art. I mean, and again, I was not about to waste a moment. I mean, I knew I was taking time away from my family. So, well, some other, and I would be traveling with kids. I mean, they could have been my children too. I mean, if I had them at 14, mind you, but, But anyway, so that was very important to me, to actually be able to just spend a whole day walking. And then now, I mean, guys, I have stamina.
Oh my gosh, yes you do. I saw it in Vietnam. I was like, I need to go lay down and do it. Like, no, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go there.
No. We're gonna make use of this time.
Yes. I don't think you wasted a moment of that trip. You made every and then you went to Tokyo afterwards and
oh my gosh, that was incredible.
I love following you on your social media, because now my friend and I, we plan to go to Tokyo, and we want to see all the museums and do all this stuff. So
okay, I'll give you a list also of feelings. There's a great little book that I gave my friend who went to Japan a year ago, and anyway, I'll ask him and I'll give it to you.
Yes, please.
Great little guide.
Yeah. Because that's what we do. We just love to go look at art. And you made a great comment about, like you, I was in a job that I hated. I was working in computers. I was a programmer. And I felt like my soul was dying. But the job gave me a lot of travel opportunity, like you did. Mm-hmm. But when I traveled, I explored the culture. And so I used those opportunities as lessons. I think you're absolutely right. You never stop learning. You're constantly acquiring information. And then when I got to a school and was going through my graduate program, then all those things kind of were tools I could use and reference.
Yes, absolutely.
So, wow,
and then you start learning how to make connections.
Yes.
And, to connect ideas and connect, thoughts. And sometimes, life can feel so disjointed, but then you see that there's kind of like an overarching theme of, things that you're going through at a particular moment.
Absolutely. I agree. So I'm curious. So as a Latinx woman going through school and then obviously working at Dallas College, have you ever? I always ask my participants, have you ever faced any direct racism living in this town, or just overt, or any kind of struggles as a woman or as an artist? And how did you handle some of that?
Well, I like to handle. Well, depends on what day of the week it is, right? Or how my state of mind, if you will. But right. I like to handle those things with a little bit of humor.
Oh, okay. So, I like that.
I mean, it kind of diffuses it, especially for myself. I'm not trying to, for others. It's just for me, because it's easy to get caught up on those microaggressions.
Yes.
And sometimes, oh man, I mean, and also there's been times where I've been, the focus of even sexism. I mean, it's almost like I have a double whammy, Latina and then a woman. Mm-hmm. It's like, and then a mother, because also in the realm of art, it was a big no-no up until a few years ago. Women would actually limit and would have to decide, whether you wanted a family or you wanted a career in the arts, which is nowadays it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does not matter.
Mm-hmm.
But when even 20 years ago, I remember asking, I can't remember the name of this artist. It's incredibly well known. It's an artist who was a professor at Boston University for many years, John. I know his name is John. I cannot remember his last name to save my life. And I cannot Google it because I have you guys on my phone right now.
That's okay.
So anyway, I asked him, like, what is, I have a young daughter. And actually, he became kind of mad with me. And he said, well, you just put that baby on your back, on a sling, and you continue working.
Yes.
And it kind of took me back a little bit. But at the same time, he was much older, an artist of a different generation. And he was kind of berating me. But at the same time, also, you have to have a thick skin, guys. You have to have. In art school, I feel like art school is there to kind of bring you down. Mm-hmm. They tear you up to pieces. And then you slowly have to put them back together and then actually arrive at a certain style, theme, or whatever. I mean, that was kind of my experience in art school. I'm not saying it's bad. I actually think that that's good in the sense that it really challenges you.
Yes.
Nobody's giving you a pat in the back. You're doing great.
No. I cried after one of my defenses too, and I mean, they just rip you one side and up the other. And it took me years to recover and to just learn how to take criticism and not be so beat up by it. But yeah, it is. It's very tough.
And at the same time, what's interesting, and by the way, I think I'm not answering your question, but I think this is kind of important. At the same time, once you're out of grad school, people tend to be very intimidated with the work you do, and they tend to just say or arrive at this, I love what you do, I love your colors, but really not asking questions that challenge you. Mm-hmm. So especially people that are not in the arts. And, collectors too. I mean, nobody really asks you like, okay, what is this about? Or, why are you doing this subject matter? And do you think you're being effective? And, so that's one of the reasons why I'm part of this group of artists. We happen to be all women. It's 5 professional artists, and we meet about once a month. We go to one another's studios, and it's very important because we are very vocal and loud about each other's work. I mean, I happen also to admire their work. I think they're amazing, and I think I'm the only one that doesn't have gallery representation at this point, which is fine. But it's kind of like, it challenges me. These are people that are, some of them work full-time as artists, others like me are educators and also, professional artists. But, everyone's working and struggling and doing the best they can. And I don't know, we kind of feed off each other's energies. Mm-hmm. So I think, I say that because I think it's very important for you guys who are in college right now to find, and even if you're not, to find your tribe, to find your family, those people who are going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, you're going to survive. It's going to be fine. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to hear, I like this, I like this, I like this, over and over again.
Absolutely. Yeah, you want honest feedback and criticism and among people you trust. And what I've recently have realized is it's been harder for me to find a group of other Latino women professionals to connect with. That has taken more time to evolve because I've always grown up around white culture, white community. I grew up away from my culture. So now that I'm trying to embrace it and connect more with it, that's a whole different experience and a whole different relationship. And even my relationship with you, I feel like there are things that I think you understand what we go through more so than some of my other friends. Mm-hmm. So it is so important to have those mentors, that feedback. Absolutely. Absolutely.
At the same time, Don Taylor cannot be whiter. My professor from Brookhaven, my friends from, there's one of them. She was born abroad in Europe. She has like kind of European and Middle Eastern. I'm talking about my group, my little professional group of artists. But you bring that diversity, and I think that it's valuable what we bring in. Our stories, our biases, our lenses, guys. We all see through lenses of our cultures or the way we grew up in. But I think what's very important is to kind of keep an open mind and see that, others are bringing also their point of view.
Yes.
And take what's going to be helpful and, the rest.
Exactly. So I'm curious, how did you get so you finished your degree at SMU, how did you get to Richland College to be a professor of art? So what was that journey?
Well, that was kind of a vertiginous transition because I was an adjunct for one semester, and you don't get to learn how to teach.
No.
In a Master of Fine Arts program.
Nobody teaches how to be a professor.
No, nobody teaches you.
No.
Same with history.
We were both on our own. No, I made this shit up just to try things and learn from people that I admired and how they did it. There is no handbook.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no.
So you have to see kind of the reference of your professors and see kind of the pedagogy that they use, and then you kind of implement it, kind of intuitively.
Yes.
Which, intuition is, I think, another form of intelligence. Mm-hmm. And, but you also have to have your ego in check. Oh, sorry, I just kicked my tripod. So you have to have your ego kind of in check in order to, kind of bring that resistance down a bit, mm-hmm. and then be able to kind of learn from others and see what you can apply. And oftentimes things don't. Oh, yes. They say that it takes about 5 years of teaching in order to become an effective educator. I mean, if I see those students, 10,
it's taking me at least 10 to figure out what the hell
I'm not there. But I do like to apologize to all my first semester students.
Mine too. I think about my first years of teaching, and I was flying by the seat of my pants. I was just like, yeah.
So I was teaching at Cedar Valley and then in Tarrant County. So I had 3 classes, and I was driving like crazy.
That's a drive. Whew.
That's a drive.
I taught at UT Arlington, and I was like, nope. As great as the college is, I'm not driving all the way out there anymore.
It's a great school, though. I like UT.
It is.
In Arlington.
The commute from North Dallas. No.
Tough.
Yes.
So I was, I needed to pick up another job because I was like, okay, this is ridiculous, So I applied to teach at Richland, and the person who was hiring me, said, oh, sure, of course, I'll give you 1 class. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be teaching also 4 classes in 2 days a week, which was kind of okay because then the rest of the days I had to paint my studio.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Long story short, the person who hired me at Richland called me a week before classes started on January of 2014 and said, are you sitting down? And I said, okay, well, sit down, and I just wanted to offer you a full-time job. This position opened up, and we think that you will be perfect for it, and it's a visiting scholar position. Yes. So it was kind of like contingent on performance. Mm-hmm. So you had a 1-year review, and then at the second year, you had to reapply.
Yes.
And compete, if the position was open again, and compete.
That's
in
exactly
case it didn't
what my
work out.
experience was, yes.
Really?
Yeah, and in fact, I was actually Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and that's how I got my adjunct job at Richland. And they needed someone because this professor had to go take care of her family. So that's how I got my first job at Richland. But then getting the full-time, I was at Collin College teaching humanities, and I got a call out of the blue saying, we have a position. Would you be interested? And boom. Yeah, and it was a visiting scholar. But it was right when the housing thing happened in 2008, 2007. Mm-hmm. So this was like 2000. Well, I started 2010. So by that point, the economy had gone down. They were cutting back. And so they just said, well, this 2-year appointment, we're going to go ahead and have you apply for your job now in case there's no funding a year from now.
Oh, wow.
So I had barely gotten the job for a year. And then they're like, oh, yeah, but you got to apply again right now. That was some stressful times. Yes.
That was so stressful.
Oh, my God.
The second time when I was reapplying after the end of that 2-year period, I was competing with 76 people that applied for my job. And I was like, anything can happen.
That's what I was, too. I threw my hands up. I'm like, I'm just going to go in there and just do what I know how to do. And, Absolutely.
So, it's one thing to arrive, right? To get the job. It's another thing to
Yes.
keep it.
Yes. Yes.
So, that's another sort of lesson that I got from this experience. I'm trying to get, kind of, man, life is just the biggest teacher, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have to really be open to, reading the cues. Also, because it can happen then, or you can learn your lesson then, or it's going to happen, down the line. If you're lucky to be alive, also,
Yes. Yes.
So that was tough, as you know, Michelle.
Mm-hmm. No, but we're here, and I'm liking.
Yeah.
I'm now that we're seeing the older generations now starting to retire. Now someday we are going to be the veteran. We're starting to become the veteran professors. So
I just know I'm not going to be teaching like 50 years from now.
You say that.
Well,
I know.
Who knows?
I said
right?
the same
If
thing.
I'm going to be leaving.
I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of things to do, but
I mean, it's just so well. And also, I say that I love teaching, by the way, and teaching is my job, right? I mean, I would say 90% of artists, visual artists, and this is something that I'd like to share with those of you perhaps thinking in a career in the arts. You're going to have a day job. There's very few. The percentage is so low of artists that can actually make a living. And also, I like to eat.
Yeah.
I like to eat.
Writing. Elizabeth Gilbert, she's like, I always had another job, but then you make time for your art. You make time to write. And I've had to do the same thing. And like, I get up in the morning and I give at least an hour just for myself, just to journal or get ideas down. And now my weekends are crafting days, are art days.
Nice.
Because I would go weeks without doing art and I would feel kind of like, okay, I don't feel myself. I don't feel okay. So yeah, you have to commit to that. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't understand people who would tell me, oh, I'm bored. I have nothing to do. I'm like, are you kidding? I have so many things to do right now.
I have so many things to do, watch, to paint, so many ideas that are merging in my head that I don't have time to.
Now, are you, I think we're similar in that, do you like to like clean your studio and organize it and like set your canvas and do all the prep work? Do you yes.
A little disorganized.
But so you like to go back and...
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm stretching some canvases, like small ones, and I'll give you a peek in just a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm stretching some this beautiful linen that I have, and I've had it kind of folded up in a corner in my studio. So I just bought these brace bars, to create a stretcher, and then I'm stretching my own canvas. I used to do that years ago.
Yes.
But I don't do it anymore on the big ones. I have really strong hands, but, sometimes it's just too much. And then that on top of, I guess what I'm trying to say is that now I know a bit of my limitations. And I like to stretch the smaller ones because, I don't know, they're less taxing on my hands than, the big old canvases that I have.
The beauty of having art assistants, though.
Yeah, one day.
Unpaid intern.
Yeah, exactly. That's a funny thing. Corporations would hire unpaid interns, and I've had interns here working. I always pay, and I don't pay minimum wage. I don't, and I'm probably the least of the person who can actually afford to be paying more than, $15 an hour or whatever. But it's just a matter of, I don't know. It's a moral issue.
Yeah, exactly. And I do every once in a while. I need help with something, and I'll hire like a former student. But I want to make sure it's worth their time as well. And
absolutely.
And if it takes one more thing off my plate to help me, well, now I have a teenager, and he's willing to work for money. So I'm getting some things done around the house now.
That's perfect. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's been going on in Venezuela as far as the pandemic. How are they handling, or are you planning to go back anytime soon, or?
Well, I was going back this summer. That didn't happen, of course. Part of the problem is that the government decided to close the borders, and there's no commercial aviation since last March.
Oh my God.
So there's no commercial airplanes coming in and out. Recently, there's some what they call humanitarian flights. Some airlines would actually fill, and these flights fill in very quickly, right? You have to have a foreign passport, prove that you're, I don't know, maybe you have a EU passport or, from another nation. And then, then you can opt to go into these, these flights. The problem is sometimes you know how to go, but you don't know how to come back. You don't know when you're going to come back, when you're going to leave. But so it's a big of an issue. So a lot of, it's been very painful to see the struggle in people and families. Also, I have to remind everybody that it is a dictatorship.
So,
and
I thought the other guy was still fighting to get wasn't there an election that was contested? I was following it for a while, and then
there's two presidents, basically.
Yes,
so it's a very dysfunctional country, and it has, their institutions are not strong enough, and have been sort of, in a way, dismantled, because they all serve, right, the executive, and the military is very heavy-handed in their approach to politics. And anyway, long story short, there is a pandemic in Venezuela. A lot of people have passed away, but there's no official numbers because the country doesn't, the government doesn't really count or publishes any kind of data.
Wow.
So there's no transparency, basically. So I just, I do what I can do. I keep in touch with my family there. I have all my family there. And, just
they're doing okay?
They're doing okay. So far, I mean, everybody's just been kind of up in the air. And for example, my sister, where she lives, there's a curfew. And after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you have to be home in my hometown. So there's no gas. So there's also a fuel crisis.
I saw a New York Times article I was going to send you that the oil industry is just completely upheaval in Venezuela. Yeah. And I was talking actually with my partner about that, because who they're right for to come in would be the Chinese, because that's what they're doing in Africa. The Chinese government is going nations that are vulnerable and buying up oil, buying up property and land. And I wonder if something similar might not happen with Venezuela.
Well, it's the same case in Venezuela. The Chinese government has bought in the future oil production. Mm-hmm. And also in there we have Russia as well. So it's a geopolitical issue now. Yeah. And, the U.S. being sort of at the closest stronghold, power in the same hemisphere, hasn't been much of help.
I don't even know if there's a good relationship with Venezuela right now, with our government. The way
not with Maduro, no relationship to with the dictator, but there is some relationship with the interim president. His name is Juan Guaido.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we can do here on this side to donate or provide?
So that's one thing, yes, and that's a great question. So there is something we can do. One thing that we did, I'm part of a small group, an organization here in Dallas. It's called Casa Venezuela Dallas.
Okay.
And it's been working for about 3 years, and we realized that there's, by the way, those of you who don't know, in the past 3 or 4 years, we've had a tremendous migration problem in Venezuela. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
And about 5 million people have left Venezuela.
Yes.
So that means a lot of Venezuelans have asked for asylum here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And one thing that we didn't know is that we realized that there's a lot of issues, and believe it or not, I mean, just coming from Venezuela, again, what I was saying, right, about being not only the daughter of an immigrant, but also an immigrant myself. When you think about the United States as, one of the richest countries in the world, there's such abundance here. You go to a supermarket and, you have, 50 brands of cereal. Like, what?
Yeah.
Where I'm from, it's like, on a good day, we have like 4 or 5. But anyway, long story short, we identified a lot of people who didn't have enough resources. Mm-hmm. And one thing that we decided to do was just to do food runs or food bank, kind of food drives, basically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it started by just donating harina pan, which is a Venezuelan staple. It's kind of like the Mexican maseca.
Yes.
But the Venezuelan, it just tastes a little bit different. Maseca is kind of made with a white, white corn.
Mm-hmm.
It just tastes slightly different. And you make like these gorditas, and we call them arepas. So it started with that. I mean, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the prices of groceries have just shoot up so much in recent years. So we started just donating that, and then people have, sometimes they bring here to my house, or they bring into, the place where we're donating. If you can follow Casa Venezuela, they're always putting together, a food drive, or we're putting together food drives to distribute among the Latin American community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
and let me know if you're doing a drive or something. Let me know. I'm sure our club, we can get the troops and do what we can. I wish we were doing fundraisers right now. We would do absolutely another fundraiser for that.
Thank you. I
let's see where
appreciate
we can find some inroads where we can support, because we especially want to support all of the Latin American countries, and we know Venezuela. We've done other campaigns, so yeah. If there's any way that we can contribute, or even just drop off food or something.
And it's interesting that when I was in grad school, there was such an emphasis of art as a social practice.
Yes.
And how to combine the two. And I found it so interesting that I'm now kind of working in this. And another thing that we do with Casa Venezuela, which is my favorite thing. So it has a website, a Facebook page, and also an Instagram.
Okay.
Now, they don't accept any kind of sales, right? The moderators of the page, nothing. You cannot sell anything. However, if you are getting rid of something, even if it's something as simple as a chair, I don't know, a guitar. The other day, a friend of mine wanted to get rid of an old piano she had. She's like, I'm not going to get much money from, and I said, you know what, send me a picture. I'll post it on Casa Venezuela. 2 minutes later, it was taking off her hands.
Wow. Okay.
So people organize, and then they go pick up whatever item. I mean, I've posted
because I might have a washer and dryer, and I might have a stove.
Yes.
I might have because I'm trying to clean stuff out of the house. Okay.
Now, you cannot sell it. That's the only thing.
Right. No, that's fine. That's fine. I'd rather go to someone that needs it.
Exactly. And then, through the group, people can get organized and, hey, I have a pickup truck, and then I can help you on Saturday. We've donated, or through the group, not we. I mean, it's just the page is there.
Right.
And the idea is just to provide a platform for some of these things to happen.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. I'll have to take a look. And my officers, we're going to have a meeting soon, so we'll put that on the agenda, and we'll have them see what they can do to get involved.
Oh, thank you. That will be amazing.
Absolutely. Oh, we're always looking for something to help support the community, especially in a pandemic. We want to do something.
Yes.
If we can't raise money, which frustrates me, but because I love a fundraiser.
Yeah. No, you do such a good job with it.
Thank you. Well, we have about 10 minutes left, but I want to spend a little bit of time. Do you want to share some of your art, or what you're doing with your practice of art? Or I love the painting.
Sure. One thing that I can show you guys just real quick, and I'm going to take my phone out of here.
Yes, take us with you.
I'll take it with me.
Hola, so Mexico. I'm going to show Max on there. I saw your husband on there a minute ago.
Yeah, I saw him too.
Max, I loved your skateboarding.
Max, you're quite good at that.
Famous, yes.
So I love this book. It's called Daily Rituals, and this is one thing I keep, like, books around my working area, because I'll be working. Here's my kind of workspace.
I love your bookshelves. I'm in the middle of trying to get bookshelves. I miss all my books. They're all in storage, so I love it.
Yes.
It's
you need them
to have books around. I love.
And I haven't read this book front to back. I just open it up, and because it's a series of short stories of artists, writers, and they actually write about their daily practice.
I love that. Oh, I'm going to look for that book. It's called Daily Rituals?
Daily Rituals. Okay. How artists work, daily rituals. And then, for example, here, I just opened up the page on Chuck Close, who's a famous painter. And he says here, he writes, in an ideal world, I would work 6 hours a day, 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon, Close said recently. So then he goes on to talk about, other things he does. And anyway, it's really interesting. So one of the things that I'm doing right now is let me show you guys. These are the crossbars that I mentioned
Mm-hmm.
and that I bought. They're so nice and solid. This is
Ooh,
about 14 by 13 inches. And then this is the linen that I was telling you guys about that I had kind of in a corner of my studio. So what I'm doing here is I'm just slow stretching, and I like to keep the back of my paintings very pretty. So let me give you an example here of one that I just did, and I already sized it because you have to prepare the surface. You cannot just go ahead and paint over this raw canvas. You have to prepare it. So this is one I just did a couple of days ago, and I just like to keep my edges very clean and pretty. It's funny, people say, well, nobody's going to see it. Well, I see it. It's important to me.
Exactly. It matters to me.
It matters to me.
Yes.
It's very important to me. So I just have 3, and I have 2 more to stretch. I think I've been discussing this fact that I paint very large or very small.
I know, I love that.
So I have here a wall of tiny little paintings.
Oh.
Right there. Those are like 12 by 12. There's one in there that's a little bit larger, but they're rather small. And then some sketches that I do on Yupo paper, which is, shouldn't call it Yupo paper, but we do. So we have I have some little sketches here. These are what?
I love your use of color. It's so vibrant. It has so much energy. And the red, oh my goodness.
And then I have a demo for a student in the summer class. But anyway, hang on. Sorry, I'm moving my camera a lot. So anyway, I do, these little ones, and then I keep them kind of in the background to get ideas for the larger ones.
Yes, yes, I love it.
So this is interesting, this black and white one, because I feel like it was completely unfinished, and then I turn it. I did a 90-degree turn, and other things came up, like these other ideas of travel came up. And even though it's inspired by a very central avenue in Caracas, but it doesn't matter. And then sometimes here I have a work station here as well. So here's a demonstration for my painting students. I have some palettes and some brushes, and I have my my tubes of paint.
Do you ever have pieces that you put away and then years later you're like, oh yeah, let me come back and work on that?
Well, if you would come to my house, you would see that I have paintings all over the house, in closets, in the back of, under the beds, everywhere. My daughters now, they're both out of the house, and I'm
You've taken them over, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm really trying not to take up their spaces. I'm really being respectful of their space.
Well, I don't feel so alone because that's kind of what I'm doing at the house here. I'm slowly taking over every room of the house.
Exactly. So if you see like every nook and cranny, like I have like 5 paintings in there.
Use of your space.
Yeah, and I'm glad I organized this studio, this area, the bookstore, because this was like piles and piles and piles of things.
Oh, wow.
And then,
I love it though. It's beautiful. And
then these are some of my nice art books. I have them kind of in sections. Like I have like these 3 sections are of Latin American and Venezuelan art. Oh, I got to show you the artist that I was mentioning that I talked at the beginning of this conversation, that I worked with him when I was in my early 20s.
Oh, yes. What was his name again?
His name is Jesus Soto.
Soto.
This is one of his fabulous books. And let me set the phone real quick, and I'm going to show you guys. So, I bought this wonderful flat file, and the problem with it is that it's completely full now.
I know.
So I don't know. Someday I had to like do a sale or something, get rid of some work, which I've done in the past. But anyway, it's a lot of work to do as well.
Yes.
So let me show you guys. So this is an artist who actually worked with, he started working figuratively, and he then started one of the forefathers of what in the United States we know as optic art. In the rest of the world, it's known as kinetic art, which is interesting. When we read about kinetic art in the US, it's actual movement, such as Calder, Alexander Calder, and other artists that play with the notion of movement. Thinking George Rickey, it's another important artist. But anyway, so he was working in two dimensions, but by overlapping acrylic material. So again, he was working with a new industrial material that just came available in the 50s, right in the mid of the 20th century. And he would actually overlap things right behind a static black and white painting, and then he would lay a transparent acrylic with a superimposing design, and as you walk by it, they tend to move, like how it's vibrating here.
Wow, yeah, it has an energy. I mean, I really
Yes, absolutely, and that's one of the things that he was working with, was also energy and movement. So he was kind of like a physic mathematician, and I know there's a big reflection in there, but hang on, bear with me.
There it is.
So some of these pieces would be hanging in front of this black and white rectangular surface, and as you walk, they would move sometimes. And here in the book, I love how they resolve the issue of showing the work.
Yes.
With this acrylic film. So anyway, his work can also be, not just so so mathematic and so precise. Some of it is. It can also be poetic, and in the sense that he has a long series of what he called writings. So again, black and white lines, in this case, vertical lines, and superimposed these wires that he would actually fold. And as you would move in front of the work, it would just vibrate.
Yes.
I love the writings. It's called
Is he still alive, or?
No, he died. I can't remember exactly, 2002 maybe. Maybe somebody can look it up in there. Oh, I see, Triki. Hola, Triki. I can see she. Another thing that he did, which I find absolutely fascinating, he did scenographies for collaborations with ballet, in this case, and theater. And he has a very important body of work that is called penetrables. And the penetrables are large-scale works. So they're basically a aluminum frame, and they have a grid on the top. And from that grid, PVC pipes, very thin. They're kind of like tubes, sometimes of color. Like there's one of these large-scale installations at the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. LACMA, the Los Angeles Art Museum of Contemporary Art, has one, completely yellow, absolutely gorgeous.
So I'm just letting you know, I have my 2-minute countdown. I know the time just flew by.
It just flew by.
It does.
But anyway, let me tell you guys real quick. When was the last time that you were asked to actually touch, let alone go into a work of art?
Yes.
So to me, that's one of my favorite things. Yeah, absolutely. About art. But thank you so much for this interesting conversation.
Yes, thank you so much for being on our channel and for sharing your experience. And yeah, our students, we didn't just become professors. Like it's a journey, and absolutely.
Yeah, and we're still growing, guys. Just remember, the key to being a teacher is that you're the one that learns the most.
Exactly.
So keep that in mind.
Students than anyone. I learned so much. I've learned so much from you. I learned so much from my ALA students. I mean, and I think that's the thing, is that we are still students at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And I miss you guys. I miss everybody. I miss being in the classroom.
I know. I miss bringing pan dulce and having coffee and doing art with you.
Yeah, same here.
All right. Well, it was so good to have you. And I think next week we're actually going to do some Day of the Dead crafts on our live feed. So
nice.
I'll announce that. And hopefully we can do another collaboration of some kind together. So
maybe we could do an art activity.
Yes, I would love that. I would love that. Absolutely.
All right.
Well, muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
Gracias, Michelle.
So good to see you. All right.
Igualmente. Bye, guys. You all
Bye.
take care.
Bye, Max. Bye, girls. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I'll see you.